Hello, students and parents and viewers. Welcome to another SmartMusic tutorial. In our last video, we showed you students how to create an account through SmartMusic using your class code. So if you want to check out that video, feel free to look in the description below. There will be a link to that video if you still haven't created an account. This time we're going to show you some of the basic features of SmartMusic. So if you go ahead and log into your account, you'll see this screen come up and it'll have your information. Feel free to change your password if you would like, or add a secondary instrument if that works for you. Just checking to make sure all your information is correct. After that, feel free to go up to the top left hand of the screen and click the home button. This will be your primary page that the students will come to. It'll have any assignments that'll be due or recently graded assignments. So we have one assignment. I'm in the beginning band class as a test person or a test account. So I've got Heroes and Glory in my account for the assignments. What I want to show you is on the right hand side over here, we have method books. So if you go ahead and click that, it'll pull up all of the different method books that are in the SmartMusic program. I want to draw attention to this part where it says search content by keyword. This is going to be important so you can find the book a lot easier. For our classes, we use essential elements. So if you type in even just essential and then hit enter, then you'll come up with all the essential elements books. And since I'm in the beginning band class, I want to go for book 1. Once it loads the details, it'll have a picture of the book right here. Even though it has a flute book, don't worry. If you open it, you can select your instrument here. Usually it'll default to the original instrument that you marked as your primary instrument when you made your account. So I can, but you can switch them as well. So I'm going to go to trumpet because that's what I play normally. And then movement is just the number from the book, the song from the book. So we're going to go for an example to 25, lightly row, and then you click open. It'll take a few moments for it to load all the material, including the sheet music and the play along tracks as well for you. So this is going to be super important. And so depending on your Wi-Fi connection or your bandwidth or anything like that, it might take a little bit longer or it might go a little faster. On the top here, we have right below accompaniment, we have the tempo, which is the speed of the music. You can change that either with the minus or plus. So obviously minus makes the piece go slower and plus increases the speed and makes it go faster. If you want to go back to the original, let's see if I'm at 85, I can just hit the refresh button and it'll go back to the default tempo, which is very cool. Here, I haven't enabled my microphone, but this is a tuner. So if I just enable my microphone real quick, and then it'll take a second to reload. Once you have your microphone enabled, then you can use that tuner feature, and this is how you can tune up your instrument. So obviously you can play a normal note on your instrument, and if you're in the green, it'll tell you if you're in tune or not, which is very cool. Next over here, this basically just shows this information down here. So if I unclick this, that information will go away. And if I want it back, then it'll be back here. This is an easy way to click and find different songs in the book without having to go back to the main page. So that's a helpful feature. Over here, we got this count off. The count off is basically how many beats they'll start before the song starts. So right here, there's going to be 4 beats of a count off before the song actually starts. So if I play this right now, you'll have 4 clicks before the actual start of the music. It sounds something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so then the song starts after that, which is very cool. Moving over to the right-hand side, we have these buttons over here on the top right above the title and your instrument. This one just tells SmartMusic what type of microphone it wants to use. So if you click on this one, most instruments are going to want to use the melodic through microphone. That's basically, your typical band instruments, flute, clarinet, any of those melodic instruments. And then if you're on percussion, then you want to use percussive through microphone. For example, if you were using a drum pad or any sort of thing like that. So depending on what instrument you're playing, you're going to want to select either one of these microphones. The default will be that it'll be melodic through microphone. Over here on the right-hand side, you don't need to worry about this use my MIDI device. That's not going to change anything, and you don't need it. And then over here, obviously, this will play the song for you. And then here, this is the record button. So before you play the song, you want to hit the record button, and then you'll hit the play button so that you have time to, or your student has time to get ready to play the music. Obviously, when you're done playing the piece, then you can hit the stop record button. It'll do the same function. Moving on up to the top here, this is the accompaniment, and this is a volume slider. Basically, this has you change the volume of the accompaniment or the background part. Obviously, you can change it to soft or loud. You can also mute it so that it has no sound while you're playing. And then we move on to my part, which is basically your own instrument part. So this one, my part would be the trumpet part. So again, I can use the volume slider, or I can mute my part if I just want to play by myself. The metronome is the clicks that you hear in the background. So again, you can change the volume here, change if you want to mute it or not. And then they also have a cool thing, which is subdivisions. If you click this subdivisions button, basically instead of it clicking to the quarter note beat like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, it's going to divide that beat into 2 equal parts. So you're going to hear 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and that can be a helpful tool for students who are practicing slower music, or students who want to practice with the subdivision. It's completely up to you which one you would like. Moving on to the right-hand side, we have the swing option. The swing option doesn't really do anything for the method books portion, especially since this is a concert band method book. So even if you decided to click on things, it wouldn't make a difference for these ones. So this one you don't need to really worry about. This is more for students that are composing music through SmartMusic and want it to be kind of more jazzy and swung. So that is that part of it. Moving on up to the top hand side, I want you to pay attention to these 5 tabs up here. This first one is tracks, which is basically the page that we are on now, which is the specific piece of music that we're working on. If we move to the right hand side, if you click the My Takes button, every time you record any music on this specific track, it'll keep track and keep a record of all of your recorded performances of this song. So obviously, since I haven't recorded on this specific song, I don't have any options for this. But if I were to have recorded already, if I just click this drop down arrow right here, it would pull up all my recordings that I've done on this piece. Moving on to the right is the assessment tab. The assessment will basically show how you did on each piece. So you can either click show assessment, or you can not click show assessment. Basically, it'll just give you a score at the end of it. Over here in the middle side, part of the assessment tab is the tolerance level of the SmartMusic program. So basically, when it's assessing you through your microphone and the student playing, it can have a tolerance for errors and things like that. So easy tolerance would be, if there's a couple notes that are missed, the system is more forgiving for that part. And obviously strict tolerance is the student needs to be playing pretty well and pretty accurately for it to grade accordingly and grade it well. So for beginners and more beginner intermediate players, I would suggest to use the easy or lenient tolerance. And then obviously if you're more advanced of a player, then you can go with average or strict tolerance. I do want to make a note really quick that when you're using the tolerance levels, just be aware that the tolerance level and the assessment level and how well it assesses the students are solely based on how well your system is put up. So if you have a microphone that plugs into your computer or your tablet, it will probably have a greater level of assessment, meaning that you'll probably score a little better because the software that they're using and the equipment that you're using is a little bit more sophisticated rather than your general computer microphone by itself. So just kind of go into it knowing that some of the assessment pieces could be a little skewed because of your equipment setup. So moving on to the right-hand side is the loop feature. The loop feature basically just means that when it gets to the end of the piece here, it will immediately go back and repeat the song again for you so you can have more time to practice it. So you can select use count off between loops, which means that it's going to count to 4 again before it starts again. Or you don't have to. And if you unselect this, then obviously once you get to the end of this piece, it will immediately, without stopping, repeat and go from the beginning of the piece, which is a kind of cool, again, a cool practice feature for the students to use. The display feature is just things that you see on the screen. Obviously, there's an option to have colorblind mode on, which is a very cool feature. And then obviously over here we have highlight measure. Since it's clicked, we already have this measure highlighted in blue. If I unselected this, that blue would go away. So usually for students, it's a helpful tool to have highlight measure on. If you're more advanced, then obviously you probably don't need that feature on. Over here, we have the different types of cursors. The cursor is this blue line right here. So the first one is the beat cursor. So basically the blue line is keeping track of the beats. So you'll see what that kind of looks like if I play the song for you. So obviously you can tell that when the song is going by, it's keeping track of each 4 beats since we're in a 4/4 time signature. So you'll see 4 cursor movements every time the a measure happens. If I go to flow cursor here, this is going to make it more smooth, and it's going to track the music over the course of the entire piece. Rather than keeping the beat, it's just going to keep a slow, steady movement. So that's the flow cursor. Again, you could see it's very smooth movement, not very angular like the beat cursor. The note cursor, obviously, as it says in the name, keeps track of the notes. So when we have a long note, the cursor will hold on that note for as long as it should last. So it looks something like this. So that's the note cursor. Again, you can see that it kept track of the notes for you. And then obviously at the bottom, you can opt to have a no cursor, which is again probably for more intermediate to advanced players, so that they don't need to keep track of the music because they can just do it on their own. So most of the time I recommend that students leave it on the beat cursor setting. To the right-hand side of the cursor section is the zoom portion. So this is for it, of course, if the sheet music is too small or too big, you can either zoom in with the plus sign or zoom out using the minus sign. If you want to make it full screen for the music, you can just push this button right here. And those are all of the tabs up at the top. These tabs over here to the right-hand side are obviously for the logins and notification settings and things like that. So this will get you notifications. Obviously for me, there's no new ones. This is my profile and how to log out when you're done with your practice session. This is over here. The question mark is if you need help. The practice part is just a part of the system. If you click these squares over here, the grid over here, it'll come to some different options for you. Obviously the home page, which can be also found on the left-hand side under the Smart Music button or the home button. Obviously you can find music on your own. This will give you a performance analysis or a practice analysis for your student, how much they've used Smart Music to practice. Obviously a grade book from your assessments. Here is how they can compose music on their own. Here, SR Builder is a sight reading builder, and then they have also content managers. Moving over to the left, let's go back to the home screen. I just want to briefly share with you another part of the Smart Music platform that the students are going to want to use quite a bit. On the right-hand side of the home screen, there's method books, but over here is band and orchestra. If you click on that portion, Smart Music Library, digital library, has a whole wealth of different pieces for the students to practice and play. If you go down to the very bottom of this page, there's 279 pages of different pieces here. And again, I want you to notice the search content by keywords. So if your student knows a piece of music that they're playing in band, they can type it in. So for example, for beginning band for our class, we are playing Heroes and Glory. So if we just type in Heroes and glory and hit the enter, we should get the piece, and it's right here. And students can obviously open that piece and play along with it. Of course, there's not going to be every single piece of music out there, but there is a large wealth of sheet music that students can look at, and even sheet music that they can practice on their own, which is really actually quite cool. On the left-hand side here, you have your filters. So obviously, if you only want to look for concert band music, you would just select the concert band portion, and it'll only pull up concert band music. This is similar for jazz ensemble, string orchestra, full orchestra, and again, this is band and orchestra. If you're in choir, obviously you can just select the choir portion. You want to make sure that you unselect the band orchestra portion so that it just shows up for choir. Moving on down to some of the later filters, you have exercises, free selections, jazz improvisation, method books, sight reading, small ensemble, and solos. So you can always check out those filters as well. If we go back to band and orchestra really briefly, we go down to the lower part, and it has genres. So that's type of music, obviously. You have classical and a whole bunch of different types of things, jazz, marches, rock and pop, etc. You can click on those, and it will filter these pieces by that category. And down here, you can choose your instrument. This mostly is better for method books or solos category. The instruments portion doesn't really apply too much with the full band pieces. Difficulty, this is going to be really important for varying students of varying difficulties. Obviously, if you're just starting out, it's probably best to do beginning, very easy, and easy. If you're more advanced, you probably want to go with easy to medium easy. If you're more even more advanced, medium, advanced, advanced. These advanced pieces are more of very, very advanced high school level and even college level pieces. So you want to be just keep that in mind. And obviously, beginning is more for beginning bands. So keeping that in mind. If we go back to the home screen, there's a whole bunch of different pages that we will talk about in a future video. This concludes our second part of our tutorial showing you about the method books and the band and orchestra. If you like this video, feel free to give it a like button, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more videos involving some of these other awesome features that SmartMusic has to offer. We'll see you on the next video.